Hello students, today we are doing Nizam Ezekiel's poem Enterprise. Before I introduce you to the poem, I would like to give you a brief introduction of the poet himself. Nizam Ezekiel is a great Indo-Anglican poet. Versatility is the outstanding characteristic of his poetry. The Indian contemporary scene, modern urban life, human relationships, love and sex, and spiritual values are the major themes of his poetry. He has experimented endlessly with the form and the craft of writing. Flawless craftsmanship makes his poetry unique. Though Ezekiel is a foreigner whose ancestors had migrated to India, as a poet, he has observed and experienced much more of Indian life. Thus, the acceptance of Indian reality is an important characteristic of his poetry. If you remember that we have read his poem, Night of the Scorpion. In that, you can see the Indian life, Indian peasants. It's a kind of rural Indian life with inclination to Hindu religion and also the Indian social life of the village, the community life. So, thus the acceptance of Indian reality is an important characteristic of his poetry. His poetry portrays the social aspect of India with a humanistic strain that we saw in Night of the Scorpion, that all the villagers, they come to console the mother and to pray for her on humanitarian grounds. But the fact of the matter is that Ezekiel rebelled against the Indian way of life. That is, there is a little bit of satire also in his poetry. He has ridiculed the Indian modes of behavior and the Indian way of speaking the English language. Thus, his poems show more of anti-Indianness than Indianness. In short, the poet's relationship with India is a kind of a love-hate relationship. And Ezekiel's poetry shows his philosophical and religious bent of mind. He always stresses the need of commitment, sincerity, and integrity. His attitude to religion is rational, logical, secular, and humanistic. Rational means based on reason. Logical is based on logic. Secular is, that is, dharmanirpeksh, and humanistic is manviya, like based on humanitarian grounds. He believes in the religion of love and charity. So his poetic style is that he has a rich sense of humor and wit, and to attack on the absurdities and follies of life, he takes help of irony. He shows keen sense of form and structure. Words are chosen and used very carefully. He frequently uses the colloquial English language. His conversational tone is interesting. And Ezekiel's symbols and images are also very evocative. So we can say that Ezekiel is a versatile poet and he has prepared a grand path for the new poets. He has made a valuable contribution to stylistic felicities in Indo-Anglican poetry. And now let's talk about the poem Enterprise. Enterprise is a poem by Nizam which has manifold layers of its actual meaning, and readers can interpret the poem in their own way. It being a well written piece of art, it welcomes various critical appreciations. And apart from the meaning of the text, the essence of Indianness is there in the poem. And these elements make it so dear to the Indian readers. The language used in the poem isn't so tough that one cannot understand the meaning after reading it for the first time. So, we can say that Enterprise is an allegorical poem describing the journey of life and the poet's realization at different stages of his journey. In Enterprise, the poet Nizam talks about going on a pilgrimage. He is not alone in the journey. There are other pilgrims too in that group, and they have set out to reach a destination that is unknown to the readers. And it is not disclosed even at the end of the poem. There is a hint in the poem that the place is somewhere near the sea. The poet divides their journey into some stages. In each stage, the path they have chosen is not that smooth. That is, the path of the journey is full of hurdles. They have to face some difficulties in order to reach the goal, and some members leave the group for their differences of opinion. And one such person is an intellectual and prose writer. Excuse me. The situation worsens when they're close to their destination, but the ending is very paradoxical. Even after suffering from hardships to reach their coveted goal, they feel very dejected after reaching there. After reaching the goal, they feel that it is nothing extraordinary. At last, the poet paradoxically remarks, "Home is where we have to gather grace." So, we can say that it is a kind of a philosophical poem also. And the form and structure of this poem it has a very specific structure. Like in Night of the Scorpion, there was no particular structure. It was written in free verse. But this poem has specific structure and rhyme scheme. The poet himself is the sole speaker in the poem, so the readers can say that it is a lyric poem. There are specific instances where the poet uses a first-person narrative technique to describe the journey. And the poem is 13 lines long, and there are a total of 6 stanzas in the poem, each containing 5 lines. And the rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B, A, like A, B, A, B, A. And it continues throughout the poem without any break. If we scan the poem metrically, we can find another regularity in the poem, that the poem is written in iambic tetrameter. That is, it has 4 meters, 4 syllables in it, iambic tetrameter, 4 feet in it. In a poem composed in iambic tetrameter, it contains 4 feet in each line, and the stress falls on the second syllable of each foot. So there is an important variation in the last line of the poem. It is justified as the poet is in a paradoxical mood at the end of the long journey. The last line is in trochaic pentameter, and the last foot is catalactic. And the falling rhythm at the end is significant as per the mental condition of the poet. That is, through the meter, this poet is trying to deliver the message of the desperation and the dejection of the pilgrims when they reach home. So, this is for the introduction of the poem. And in my next session, we'll be taking the poem line by line, and I will post the text of the poem on WhatsApp group. Thank you for now.